In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about renting versus buying gear. So let's go. All right, here we are with another episode. And yes, there's a lot going on with this shirt, but I'm embracing it. It's kind of a on-camera shirt, and I kind of dig it, but I get it. But I'm going with it. It's better than the other shirt I was wearing, which was all black, and with the cameras, it was no bueno. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about renting versus buying, because I think that many of us get gear lust and we want to own all of the kit that is, well, the stuff we're lusting after. But the reality is that in order to justify, sometimes you figure out the way to justify it, even though it's probably not justifiable. But the way to justify buying versus renting is the equipment that you're investing in needs to be making money back into the business on a regular basis. Now, this was, I don't know if I would categorize it now as a big boy camera, but this is sort of my first big boy video camera that I bought myself. I had been producing a lot of content prior to that. Stuff shot on Betacam SP, Digi Beta. We got into the mini DV cameras like the GL1, GL2. I didn't own those, but I was going to Scotland to shoot a pilot with a friend of mine, and we both invested in, each of us, one Panasonic DVX 100B. And this was, I don't know if you would call it a unicorn camera, but it was pretty special back in the day. It had that look that Panasonic had, which was a little oversaturated and so on and so forth. But it also shot at 24, which wasn't what a lot of cameras in this product category were doing. So we did the pilot in Scotland, and this became a working camera. It really started to become part of the business and was great. From there, I didn't own it, but we started using HVX 200s because we were moving from standard definition to high definition. But we were also starting to use 35 millimeter lens adapters. And I really felt that the HVX 200, while it still had that kind of secret sauce in terms of color science, it was a pretty soft image in terms of HD. So the next camera, which I don't have here because I sold it, was that I bought was the Sony EX1, which was a pretty sharp HD camera. Half-inch sensor, great image quality. These were third-inch sensors, CCD. But, I'm digressing like I do on a regular basis. Then something interesting happened. I got a C100 Mark I, but I also had a separate project that I was doing in Italy, and I needed a camera that would do slow motion, and so I got a Sony FS700. So now I had a C100 Mark I and an FS700, but I found when I came back from that project that I don't shoot a lot of off-speed slow motion. And my business was really taking off in terms of corporate, industrials, case studies, lots and lots of interviews. And the trend was 100% going to A and B camera, two cameras for those interviews. So I sold the FS700, which I still miss in some ways. And I got a second C100 Mark I. These two cameras for my business worked harder than any camera equipment I had ever had before, and they really made money for the business. So I'm kind of coming full circle here. You have to pick equipment that's right for the projects that you're doing. You also have to make sure that they're working and they're becoming part of your budgets. If they're not, it's far, far cheaper to rent, especially nowadays that you have things like lensrentals.com, where you can get equipment sent pretty much anywhere, at least here in the US. Rental houses will do 3-day weeks. They'll do 1-week months. And if you need a particular kit or a particular build out of equipment for a project, it's usually cheaper to rent for a one-off. It's also a great way to try equipment and start to figure out what it is that you might want to invest in for your business. So there's no right or wrong answer. It becomes a lot clearer when you start getting into much higher end gear in terms of lighting and cameras and lenses. It's almost always better to rent in those situations. But if you are a small production company that is working equipment on a regular basis, then you do want to invest in things like not only C-stands and sandbags and modifiers, but probably a 500 or 600 watt key light, a couple of other lights for your kit, and my guess would be a couple of cameras. And what's beautiful about today is that you can get a couple of Canon R5Cs or a couple of Sony FX30s or X3s, or you can get C70s, or you can get FX6s, and they're not going to break the bank. It's when you start getting into the cine cameras, $25,000 plus to, sky's the limit. That's where it gets a little crazy. We've got it better than we've ever had it before. Just really think about when you're going to invest in equipment, whether it makes more sense to, rent or buy. Most of the time on the high end, it's rent. Buy if you're going to be working your equipment on a regular basis. That's what I got for you, even in this shirt. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.